Welcome back. Time for our GMC tweet of the night. Comes from Fort Cherry football. History was made last night as Matt Sigg became the first player in WPIAL history with 5,000 yards rushing and 3,000 yards passing. Congratulations, Matt. That is quite an amazing feat. When you think about the great players that have come through Western Pennsylvania and played at different positions, especially at the quarterback positions, we've seen some great passers in that time. You've seen either great passers or great runners. Very few that have been able to do both, especially at the level of production that he's done. So for him to do that is a huge milestone and a big piece of history. So congratulations to Matt Sigg. And by the way, he's got offers from, dozen and a half different Division I programs, including Missouri, USC, Penn State. They're all knocking down this kid's door. And I think he's got some big things in store for him. In the meantime, Jason Mackey's here. We're talking a lot of football. We got more to get to. We're taking your phone calls, 412-575-2600. We will start the man, the myth, the legend, Chuck in Uniontown. Chuck, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Yeah, on the Pirates, first of all, thanks. On the Pirates, I hope there's a change in administration after the season's over. I know they said they're supposed to be back, but I wouldn't necessarily say that's true because there's got to be a seismic change because right now I actually don't feel as good about this team at the end of this season as I did last year. There doesn't seem to be any progress made. It just seems to be nothing but inertia. What do you two think?
Chuck, appreciate the call. And to Chuck's point, the only thing I point at and say, okay, this is an area of this team that got significantly better, I look at the starting pitching because you see a full season of Jarrett Jones, at least as far as the injury is concerned, but he was with the major league team for the full season. Of course, you get Paul Skeens. Bailey Falter shows up and does what he does. Ortiz comes in and does what he does. And Mitch Keller was Mitch Keller. So the starting rotation is the one thing I do look at as the net positive at the end of the season. But Jason, I agree with Chuck. There isn't much else you look at and say, okay, here's something to look forward to next season. As far as the administrative side of it, I know you and Rich Walsh talked about this recently, and I know there's been some hesitation on your part to assume the same thing, that it might be the same group next year also.
Yeah, and Chuck, I agree with you. I understand what you're saying. This team has not played up to its capabilities this season. I don't know how I can sit here and say that. I mean, they should be a lot better than they are. It's really disappointing seeing the Pirates where they were on July 31st, I believe 55 and 52.
Yep.
And they've simply cratered since that point. In crunch time, the most important part of the season, they have not risen to the occasion. And yeah, I don't think there's going to be a complete change in administration. I think what Chuck is saying is maybe Ben Cherington going. I've never gotten that sense that that's the direction or how deep the Pirates are going to go. But yeah, I've pushed back against the idea. Ben Cherington said a couple weeks ago that he expects Derek Shelton to be back as manager. He can expect him to be back as manager. That doesn't mean he's going to come back. That's ultimately not 100% Ben's call. It's Bob Nutting has a lot to do with it, and I can't imagine. I haven't spoken to Bob in a couple of weeks, spoke to him mid-season, have a pretty good idea how he feels on things, talked to him in the offseason. He's not happy. He can't be happy. I don't know how, if you own this team, you look at the direction they're going, which is very much down, and look at this and just sign off and say, yeah, let's do another year of it. No, it's not working right now.
Especially with the trajectory, like you mentioned, that they're on and the way they're losing games now, because we didn't see some of the problems that we're seeing now earlier in the season. I mean, we saw a smattering of different things. It seems like, depending on what part of the calendar it was, this thing was happening. But now it seems like it's all happening at the same time, and that's not the thing you want toward the end of the season if you're trying to build some kind of momentum or find some level of positivity. We got John in Morgantown. John, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Hey, how you guys doing?
All right, how about yourself?
Hi, I just want to talk to you guys about, in the NFL right now, and I think it comes a lot from college. There's a trend of a lot of too high defenses, and we're seeing the ball being run a lot more at both levels, especially in the NFL right now through the first couple of weeks. And I was wondering, when you guys think about the Steelers, when it comes to their offensive line and Justin Fields specifically, is that because of the too high system, or do you think that's because of Justin Fields and what the offensive line presents right now, and run the ball is just their way forward?
I love questions like this, and thank you for the call, John. I've been waiting to talk about this for a long time. This is something I've wanted, Jason. I've wanted this team to embrace being a team that can run the ball and have an identity of being a physical, tough team. Being able to throw the ball is great. Do you need to do it 40, 50 times a game? Not necessarily, but if you can have balance in your offense, throw the ball when you need to throw it, run the ball when you need to run it, especially if teams are daring you to run the ball. By all means, do it. I remember hearing a coach say this years ago, Jason, if you see a defense give you 2 high safeties, they're almost spitting in your face and daring you to run the football. And we're seeing defenses adjust to what offenses have been doing throughout the league. One of the highest percentages of 2 deep safeties we've seen in a long time, according to Dan Orlovsky. Defenses are adjusting to teams wanting to throw the ball deep. So they're saying, hey, you know what? We're going to drop guys back in coverage, and we're going to bring you 4 guys, 4 rushers, maybe 5, and make you try to beat it. And now it's becoming more of a thing.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple different inputs here, Josh. I mean, one of them, I would go back to the Steelers' defense. If you look at how the Steelers spend money, where their strengths are, it's defensive. And you want your defense to be able to win you games. You don't want to lose them on offense. Look at week 1 and what they asked Justin Fields to do. They basically said, don't throw over the middle, don't take any unnecessary chances. And so Justin Fields didn't. That's come through in their game plan. It's been, some people might say it's overly simplistic. Fine, you've got some movement on the offensive line. It's not great. What they're basically saying is don't lose the game. Score enough points. Score more points than the other team. They don't have to put on a 30-point barrage. Allow your defense to be elite, which they've done. Don't turn the ball over. Don't do anything silly. Now, yes, I agree with what John is saying and the 2 deep safeties and you're daring teams to run the ball. The Steelers, frankly, need to be more effective running the ball. That's fine. We're only 2 weeks in, and I think that will come. I do think they're going to be a good running team. But part of this is sort of playing to their identity, which is a tough defensive team. You're going to grind some games out. It's going to be ugly, and you're asking your offense, don't screw it up.
I used the analogy the other day, and for those of you who aren't MMA fans, bear with me here. The Steelers are the fighter that aren't going to beat you striking. They're not going to beat you with kicks and punches. They're going to get you down to the ground, and they're going to get you to tap out. They're going to choke you out. They're going to try to snap a limb. They're going to get you to submit. They're going to get you down into the mud and make you fight their fight. They're not going to let you get in close. They're not going to let you land shots. They want to get you down and choke you out. That has been their identity. I can trace it all the way back to week 3 of 2019 when they brought Minkah Fitzpatrick in. That's when the shift started. In my mind, that was the line of demarcation, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. Justin in New York, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
How are you guys doing today?
Good, appreciate you.
Hey, Justin.
Roman Wilson plays tomorrow. How much of an impact offensively will he have?
It's a great question. Depends how many snaps he plays, Jason. I mean, we've seen a lot of the other receivers in the first 2 games. Roman Wilson being healthy, I think, is a great sign. I think they need to get him injected into this offense as far as the ability to maybe take some of that pressure off of George Pickens, because let's not kid ourselves. He's made some plays deep, and Justin Fields has found him. A couple of those throws got called back. That's a different discussion. But there will come a time when teams are going to say, you know what, we're taking this guy away from you completely. You got to have someone else beat us. And it might not be a Pat Freiermuth. You might need a wide receiver that can step up and make a play. And maybe that guy could be Roman Wilson. But they definitely need another element of a guy that can help them, at least if not on the outside, maybe in the slot.
Yeah, I think Roman Wilson could actually have a very large role in this offense. I don't know if it's going to come as early as Sunday against the Chargers, but he does a lot of things that really fit well with what the Steelers look for out of wide receivers. If you go back to this kid's tape at Michigan, boy, he could block. He was a willing blocker. He's not somebody who's going to be a liability in the running game whatsoever. And he can operate just fine out of the slot. My only question is, let's not forget this is going to be his first taste of NFL football as well. And he's basically only had practice time. He was hurt very early in training camp. I don't even think they had the pads on whenever he went down. So I think eventually he's going to have a pretty sizable role in this offense. If for no other reason, then they really don't have a lot of depth at wide receiver. I'm not breaking any news there, but I like his ability to contribute in the running game and to be sort of an intermediate passing threat.
And if we've learned anything with Arthur Smith's history as an offensive coordinator, I'm not talking about when he was head coach in Atlanta. I'm talking about when he was an offensive coordinator in Tennessee. What he did with that offense with a lot of 2 receivers and 2 tight end sets, they got a lot of things done, and they were a very productive passing offense despite heavily leaning on 1 receiver and a couple of tight ends and maybe another receiver with some moderate production to make it all work. So it does kind of fit into what maybe Arthur Smith likes to do with his offenses. We got to take another break. We'll wrap up when we come back. Stick around. Got a tweet from Ryan who says he liked that the Steelers signed Corliss Waitman. He says he was an unsung hero last week in Denver. I'd make the case the Steelers special teams have been very instrumental in each of their first 2 wins so far this season. So I agree with Ryan there on that move, and Chris Boswell being Chris Boswell, for lack of a better description.
Ryan might have been one that emailed me after the game. I'd made mention of some quiet things that the Steelers did last week, and I got excoriated for not including Corliss Waitman. So yes, Ryan, you were right. He's done a very good job. Cam Johnson was excellent in the preseason. That seemed to be a costly loss. But yeah, so far Corliss has done an excellent job, and Boswell is just absolutely ridiculous. I'm continually amazed at what he's doing this season.
Not only from Corliss Waitman's standpoint, not only Cam Johnson and not only Chris Boswell, but the coverage teams and the return teams I think have been pretty good. That punt coverage team made some ridiculous plays to close that game out down in Atlanta. We saw some really great plays as far as Scotty Miller and Ben Skoranek, who's also been injured. But you got those guys that are helping out on the outside. Joey Porter Jr. helping out as far as punt return team. You got these guys lending hands in here, and your special teams is helping you. It's not hurting you, which is great. You never want your special teams to hurt you, but they're also helping you as far as this team winning games. I think all that really plays a role in how this all goes. Score prediction for you, Jason. Tomorrow, Steelers and Chargers. What you got?
I think I had 21-17 last night with Richie with the Steelers winning. I think Justin Herbert plays, but I don't think he plays much, and I don't think he's very effective. I worry about that high ankle sprain, but I do think the Steelers have enough to get this done, and the Steelers at 3-0. I'm not sure a lot of us thought that. Them being 3-0, Pitt being 4-0, some interesting local teams right now.
I'm going to go 27-16 Steelers. I think it's a little bit of the same situation with Atlanta. Quarterback maybe not 100% himself. They're going to use that to their advantage. And I think the offense breaks the dam. I think a couple of drives actually ends in touchdowns as opposed to just one last week. I think they get that second one where a penalty or a mistake doesn't get in the way. And I think they'll crack at least a 25-point plateau. It's crazy that we think it's a plateau, but I think they will do that. In the meantime, that is it for us. Thanks again for Jason Mackey for joining us. He's always here joining us on weekends. And thanks, guys, for calling. Thanks for your calls. Thanks for your tweets. As we say often, it's you guys that make this show great. We're here for you 7 days a week on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Don't forget, Steelers coverage over on KDKA. Steelers kickoff at 11:30. Steelers and Chargers at 1. After the game, it's the extra point. And then it's a special edition of the Nightly Sports Call. And then watch the highlights on KDKA News at 11. And they'll be talking about it on the #1 Conference Sports Showdown, as they always do. I'm Josh Taylor for Jason Mackey, for our producer Jeremiah Miller, and our team here at KDKA. Thanks again for watching. See you later.